Dim Lights and Stiff Drinks, the dive bars of Seattle, is proud to be sponsored by the Stedman Group.
The Stedman Group is a local independent business that owns and operates Targey's Tavern, profiled here in Season 1, Episode 9, The Pogie, Season 2, Episode 12, the Duval Tavern in Duval, and Larry's Tavern in West Seattle.
All of us here at the podcast are pretty tough critics when it comes to how the local dive bars are being run, and we have always been extremely impressed with all the dive bars owned by the Stedmans. This is because all drinking establishments, especially those that have been around for a while, each have their own unique character and charm, and it's obvious when you walk into a Stedman's bar that you are devoted to maintaining that tradition. And for that, we raise our glasses and cheers.
The Stedman Group, committed to preserving the legacy of dive bars throughout the Puget Sound region.
Hello and welcome to the big show. This is Dim Lights and Stiff Drinks, the dive bars of Seattle. We're setting out to document those bars that have a seedy backstory and interesting history behind them. But we're not just talking about these places in the quiet confines of some home studio somewhere. No. We are actually visiting these places and recording each episode live on location. In this podcast, we visit the places where bad decisions and future regrets are made, so you don't have to. Joining us as always is the man who makes our show tick-tock and rock around the clock, and that would of course be our producer, Bob Trombley. How you doing, Bob?
I'm great, Brad. Thank you. Hey now. I do like
that. Are we on TikTok? I don't think any of us have a TikTok account.
No. More in reference to the
going.
More in reference to the song.
Thing?
Happy Days.
Well, my name is Brad, and I am joined by my two co-hosts, Lou and Jeremy. How are you guys doing?
All right, Brad. I'm going with MC Little One Eye.
Okay.
MC Little One Eye. Yeah, and I'm two people tonight. I used Brad's name earlier to get in on a guest list for the Almost Live exhibit launch party at Mohi. Yep. Yeah.
Stash Panda 2.
Yeah,
Double.
rub it in. One of us could be +2 or +3. Cheers.
Yeah, I actually didn't end up going. He went, but he can tell you about it later in the episode.
Whoa. There was a wasted ticket to MFers.
No, you didn't miss anything. No one showed up. The real launch party is in like a couple weeks. That's where they have the screening and the panel interview.
And Bill
Tonight
Nye.
was a soft launch?
A soft launch, yeah.
I heard there was
Meaning 0 cast members were there.
You heard wrong then, my friend.
Nope.
You heard wrong.
No open bar, no cast members. They did have a theater playing clips, and I was surprised how well they hold up. I was sitting in there cracking up, watching like Cops in Kent and Ballard Driving School.
Well, we are here at the Cyclops Cafe in Belltown, a place that has always been known as being a hangout for local artists, and we have a very special guest here with us who certainly fits that bill. Now, I'm sure most of our listeners out there are aware of that house that sits off of I-5. If you're heading on I-5 North, it's kind of in the Ravenna neighborhood off of 65th. It's otherwise known as the Betty Page and Divine House because it has Betty Page and Divine painted on the side of it. And joining us tonight is the person responsible for that iconic work. And I'm, of course, talking about the artist known as Two Thangs. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so Matt, otherwise known as Two Things, just released a book. It's due to be published next week, and he's here to kind of promote the book. He's got some big events coming up in connection with this book release.
A couple days from now.
It's the pre-release. It's a soft launch, Jeremy. It's a soft launch.
Except I made it.
Yeah,
so.
except he made it. That's right. That's right.
The talent did make it to this one.
But I also like to add that extreme dive bar enthusiast. So, yeah.
Professional.
Well, so we're going to get into your book. We're going to get into your whole story, what kind of art you create, because you create some really awesome stuff. But first, as always, we're going to dive into the history of the Cyclops. So the Cyclops Cafe first opened a few blocks from here. It was in a different location in 1990, when it grew out of a coffee shop on Western Ave known as the Free Mars. The Free Mars first opened in 1985 and was housed in an old building that was used as an artist colony of sorts for a collective known as the Subterranean Cooperative of Urban Dreams, or SCUD, as the acronym.
Love that.
So SCUD was a home and studio space to dozens of artists, including legendary music producer Steve Fisk, who recently passed away. He, of course, produced,
Sub Pop?
a bunch of Nirvana albums and a lot of good stuff. The photographer Alice Wheeler, and the designer Art Chantry, among many, many others. Robert Crumb, the famous comic artist, once visited the building and called it a magical place like a treehouse of artists. As a result, the Cyclops, which was, of course, part of the SCUD building, was a major hangout for musicians, bohemians, poets, actors, and artists of all varieties. So it was a major art hangout in the 80s and then on through the rest of the 90s. Now, were you guys familiar with the SCUD group? Because I was here back in the 80s. I was in this area and I was aware of it, but you guys hadn't quite arrived here. You guys familiar with
this is actually the first time I've ever been in this bar. It's all new to me.
Okay, so you didn't go to the original
virgin, Ludog?
Cyclops?
I am a virgin tonight. Not anymore.
I have some kind of passing familiarity with the SCUD group because I believe, and you can fact check me on this, but I believe the SCUD group was involved in the original Artifact scene, which was a multi-genre art show that was sort of around the 90s for a while. Kind of these underground
That might have been them. That very well might have been them.
very much involved in
What about you, Matt? Were you familiar with the SCUD group?
Not the SCUD group,
Okay.
but I've frequented the Cyclops at different points.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you crossed paths with some of the people involved in it at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like maybe, I got here in 2005, and I feel like a lot of the arts groups that, especially if they started in the 80s, they were
already gone
punching
and stuff.
much higher or just dissolved into
Yeah.
There might be a SCUD group alumni in the Cyclops alumni.
Or it could be. You never know. Well, I have kind of a cool SCUD-related story. So, are you guys familiar with Stephen Jesse Bernstein?
No.
Yes.
You know who he is.
Yeah. Jesse Bernstein.
Jesse Bernstein, yeah.
Yeah.
So he was like this real colorful character back in the 80s, especially early 90s. He was an underground writer and performance artist from Seattle. He was probably Seattle's closest version of like a William S. Burroughs or a Charles Bukowski or
There
someone
you
of
go.
that ilk, right? He did a lot of spoken word, and he was part of the SCUD community.
Had a very distinctive voice,
Very
too.
kind of gravelly
Yeah.
voice. He
Jesse
had a very
Bernstein.
well-known. He did a lot of spoken word performances. He was on the soundtrack to Natural Born Killers, the movie. They included a clip of one of his spoken word performances. He opened for a bunch of groups back in the 80s, Nirvana, Soundgarden, Big Black. I'm pretty sure I saw him at an early punk show. Yeah, it might even have been like a mentor show. But anyway, he also had like serious drug abuse issues, mental health issues.
Like any good artist.
Like any good artist. And eventually he committed suicide in this really kind of gnarly way. I think he repeatedly stabbed himself in the neck.
Elliott Smith went the same way.
Yeah. Very similar. Anyway.
Which one was the copycat?
It's hard to say. Anyways, I know a female artist who also lived there in SCUD. She's still producing art, and her work is pretty well known, but she's really private and reclusive, so I don't want to say her name. But she was part of the SCUD group in the 80s and was close friends with Jesse Bernstein. After he passed away, she inherited a couple boxes of his stuff that she kept with her. And I got to know her pretty good. She knew I collected old Seattle memorabilia, and she just gave me these 2 boxes of his stuff. She shipped them to me, said, they're yours, you can do what you want with them.
What was in there?
They're now yours. It was all kinds of really cool stuff.
Heroin needles, straight jacket.
Well, not too far from that. Mostly it was manuscripts, handwritten poetry, like books of his, CDs, but also some like kind of gruesome stuff. You weren't too far off, Jeremy. Like he had a couple previous suicide attempts, and one of the things in there was he'd slit his wrist, and the bandage that they used to bandage his wrist up, as well as the stitches, was in there. And there was some stuff like that. So she gave me these boxes. I was like really appreciative.
Did you hang on to that?
Well, here's what happened. So it stayed in my office, these 2 boxes. I wasn't really sure what to do with it. I knew who he was. I was like a fan of his, I would say. But it had like this weird energy to it sitting in my office.
Dark.
Kind of this
That's
dark
what I was
energy.
going to say. Yeah, maybe you picked up that had to go. Or
Yeah.
Getting rid of bad energy is what eBay was invented for.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. So,
Sold it for $10,000.
no. So it hung out in my office for a couple of years. And I always wondered, like, did she maybe, like, give it to me because she was also feeling this dark energy? And, like, because she was very adamant, like, you can do what you want with it. I don't care. It's yours. My hands are cleansed. It's now yours. So on one hand, it was super cool to have like this original Jesse Bernstein stuff because back in the day, like he was well known. He was like a local celebrity. But on the other side, like I said, it was just kind of
Pretty dark.
a little bit. At some point, I made the acquaintance of this Jesse Bernstein Uber fan who even had like a Jesse Bernstein museum in his house. And when he found out what I had, he just about lost his mind.
Flag right there.
And
you have the shrine.
yeah, he had a shrine, and he was
Wow.
so he wanted to buy the stuff off me, and I was like, okay.
Brad put on his negotiator.
No
Well, I
problem.
don't know. I don't want to sell it right now. It's going to be worth a lot in a few years.
Yeah. No, I sold it to him. I was like, this is going to a good home. And at the time, I was writing my book, Seattle Prohibition, and I needed funds for it, right? Because it costs money to like create a book.
Living on the street, trying to finish a book. We
Yeah,
get it.
I was a starving artist, Jeremy. I was a starving artist. So anyway, it was like, you know, the stars aligned. I was like, perfect. This will go to a good home. I'll generate some money for my book. So I ended up selling this guy. This guy was ecstatic. Like, he couldn't believe it. It was like he won the jackpot. And I was like, cool. It's like, it's a win-win for everybody.
Can you give us a number? What's something like that go for?
How much do you think it went for?
10 grand.
No, it wasn't anything like that. Well, all that aside, that's my Scud story. So
That's a good Scud story. Now, if you are a member of the Scud, would you be a Scuddy or a Scudite? What's your official title
I
there?
don't know if they had like an official
I'm
membership.
curious about that moniker there.
I assume SCUD was a acronym.
It was.
Do you know what the?
Yeah.
Yeah, you said it was the...
Oh, sorry, did I miss it?
No, that's
you
okay.
did.
It was. Let me go back a little bit. It was
We all
the
missed it, too.
Subterranean Cooperative of Urban Dreams.
So with that S at the beginning, it's not Seattle.
It's not Seattle. It's Subterranean.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
I think
I
they
mean,
did
you would
that
think
first.
it would be Seattle.
They did that.
yeah.
Like, this is bigger than Seattle.
This is Subterranean.
Yeah, it's beneath.
Like Sub Pop.
It's a pop, yeah.
Seattle's big on that underground scene.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's a whole tour about it.
Well, back to the story of the Cyclops. So in 1992, the building that the Cyclops was housed in became notable when artist Diane Sukar-Vathi, one of the original owners of the Cyclops, as well as a member of Scud, covered its exterior walls with Jell-O molds. And I guess the first mold she got was gifted to her, and it was a Jell-O mold of Barbie. And then she put out the call, like, this would be cool if I did the whole building this way. So she put out a call for people to donate Jell-O molds. And so she just got, like, dump trucks full of Jell-O molds. And she covered the whole walls.
Before there was GoFundMe, there was mold.
Okay. So eventually, the entire exterior wall of this building was covered with Jell-O molds. And by that time, of course, the Cyclops also had its 3D eyeball sign out front, which it still has today. So with the addition of the Jell-O molds, the building became an instant city landmark and started appearing in movies and television shows. And it was kind of like that old Seattle we were talking about before we started recording. That old, quirky, artistic Seattle, like just unique, that you don't see anywhere else. It was like that. It was a landmark of that era of Seattle.
All of those artist lofts are no longer here. So all those artists are long
We do
gone.
still have the gum wall.
Yeah, when did the gum wall even first appear? That wasn't the 90s or anything. I would say that was like the 2000s.
No.
I think it's older than that.
Is it?
Where? Well, for those who don't know, the Gum Wall is a post alley in the Pike Place Market.
Yeah.
Happens to be in the same alley adjacent to, or right there next to, the Market Theater.
Correct.
And as, according to them, the folks down there at the Market Theater, when they opened up the theater, back in the day, people would wait in line for their shows. You gotta be sitting there waiting to buy a ticket. Maybe you're, chewing on a little double bubble.
And the gum lost its flavor. What do I do with the gum?
Oh shit, there's this fucking ugly ass brick wall. No one gives a fuck if I stick it right here. So as the story goes, it started back when the Market Theater started, when people were waiting in lines for the shows. That's how it started. At least that's what those folks say on the Pike Place podcast.
But Bob, when did that start?
And when did the Market Theater start? I want to say I can't remember. I think it was the late 80s.
Oh, it was late 90s. I thought it was newer than that. Oh, it was the 80s?
Yeah, I believe.
See, I don't remember the gum wall in the 90s. I didn't really become aware of the gum wall until like maybe 2010.
I think the early 2000s is when it became popular. When I first started working at the Pike Place Market in 2005, it was definitely a thing. But it was just, and it was still kind of, then it was like the wall, gum, but now it's almost spread to like everywhere. Post alley. It's like the gum wall is just not
like
the gum
both
wall.
sides.
It's the gum, just everything. Yeah.
God, man, I just saw this gnarly.
The Gumiverse.
I just saw this gnarly video. It was one of those social media influencers.
They ate a piece of gum off the gum wall, didn't they?
One piece of gum. They grabbed a whole big, like, mushy wad of the stuff off the wall and chomp. Yeah, off of our gum wall.
That's vile.
Defecation.
Yeah.
Defamation.
So, yeah.
Thank you, Matt. But also, I've seen a video of like someone, same thing, they record them and just go down the way, just kind of get their little...
Give it a lick.
Yeah.
Get a little taster, flavor the flavor.
What's a little hepatitis?
That's all influencers out there who are listening. No.
I will say, on my walk down here, I stopped by a little shop that opened in 2020 called Happy Days and Funny Nights, and it's a
shout out to Alex and Dan.
Yeah, and it's a little art store. It's beautiful. It's all local art or stuff like that. And I was talking to Alex actually about the state of art in Belltown, and what she was saying is actually the Airbnb crash of like buying up all the condos over here has actually led to a resurgence of art in the neighborhood, because all the people that shopped at like high-end galleries have left town and their condos have become Airbnbs, and so all the people that stay at those are like looking for
something cool to buy.
Seattle art, and so like
home.
She's kind of filling that void, which I was like, that's kind of a fun twist to Belltown.
That is kind of cool. Yeah.
The current art scene has Airbnb.
It's
a little bit.
I'm into it. Yeah.
You get. Very nice. Very nice.
Okay.
Yeah, shout out to Happy
Days and Funny Nights.
It's Funny Nights down there on the corner of 1st and Virginia, right across the street from the Virginia Inn, which was also a show featured on Dim Lights, Stiff Drinks.
That's right.
That's right. Way to tie it all together.
Good job, Bob. That's some broadcasting skills.
Looking for a funny night, not a comic book
And if you want that, you go to the Gold Age Collectibles down in the basement and the underground of the Pike Place Market.
God, I love that place. I haven't been there recently, but I used to go there all the time.
They have some good stuff. Well, I was walking by the other day, which I was thinking, the state of affairs, like Xanadu, which used to be there on 2nd, but that was closed years ago.
Yeah.
That used to be a cool spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, Golden Age Collectibles, shout out to Golden Age Collectibles.
Shout out, for sure. Well, like much of old Seattle that we all loved and cherished, the original Cyclops eventually met its demise when a developer purchased the building and all the tenants were evicted so that the building could be demolished to make way for condos. So sadly, on April 27, 1997 was the last day of the original Cyclops.
Scud is there ripping off those buildings. Like you should have noticed lost.
I hope they did.
Also took the copper wiring.
Yeah. But as a kind of consolation, the condo developers, they did put a Tully's there. So, almost as good as the Cyclops, not always lost.
Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of like a salt on the wound, I think, to a lot of people. Putting a Tully's there.
Could have been
Could have been a Starbucks.
I guess that's true. That's true.
I mean, chopsticks on on the rebar grave, and like whatever condo that the funhouse turned into is just those are just like.
I can't believe it turned into a piano bar. That's where is there a market for your piano bar?
I don't know.
Like, I don't know. I can't, like, I don't know. Where is there a bar?
Is it a dueling? It's not just a piano bar. It's a dueling.
And it's one that already existed. It was already in Queen Anne.
Oh, the one in Queen Anne.
Yeah, but now they moved it into the corpse of the rebar.
Bummer.
Yeah.
Are you a fan of piano bars, Lou Bob? Which is fine. I'm not judging. I'm just curious.
Well, no, that one had its day. There was a little time where piano bars were a bit of a fad, and that one in Queen Anne had it going on.
Was that like late 80s or something? Or what?
No, I didn't get here till the 90s. It would have been like a 2000s thing around the time of the Big Bad Voodoo Daddy.
Oh, that
Yeah.
thing.
It
Okay.
was that kind of party. A little bit of a Sinatra resurgence.
Okay.
Though have it at the Rebar, like that's a Queen Anne crowd bar. No one's going to this crappy, shitty place next to I-5.
The Rebar had
It's like-
I've had a bunch of some cool
To
like
get some piano.
house shows, but then I've also seen like some fucking metal shows there too. So I'd have like I love the different juxtaposition they have going on over there.
The beauty of the rebar that existed was that it was a blank slate. I mean, kind of like Rendezvous. Like, you could get a show there, and so some of the most wonderful things that happen in, like, weird theater and weird bands happened in those spaces because, like, they didn't have any sort of gatekeeping.
Right.
Like Match Game Rebar. I met my wife on a show called Get Loaded that was at Rebar.
I forgot about the match game.
Yeah,
That
like
was
the Dina Martina Christmas
Dina
show used to be
Martina?
there. We
Oh, yeah.
did that several times. Brown Paper Bag, where they would do the movie recreations. They did like Dirty Dancing and Aliens.
Oh, yeah. Dirty. What was that? Brown Bag Theater or something?
Yeah, Brown Bag Theater.
Kaleidoscope, if you ever saw that, was like they would just take these weird clips and mash them together and then sell popcorn for cheap. Like old 60s, 50s clips that out of context are like you're on an LSD trip, and they just stitch them together. I think that show's continued in town. It's a really amazing show, but that's where it got its start.
Yeah.
It's just like this rebar community space because they'd be like, okay, Dina Martina pays our bills during Christmas. We'll let you do whatever you want during the other months. And every once in a while, a show would form a big community. Yeah.
I saw a Hedwig there with Nick Garrison.
Oh, wow.
It was
that would've been a
amazing.
great spot to see that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
DJ Riz every Friday night.
Oh, yeah.
DJ Riz, man.
Seattle Classic.
The Wayback Machine.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the Wayback Machine, so back to the Cyclops. So like a phoenix rising from the ashes, after the Cyclops closed in 1997, a new one was opened in 1999 when the old Glasser building that we sit in now was refurbished into the Ace Hotel. You guys remember when that opened?
Yep.
That was kind of a big deal. Yeah. The Glasser building has some rich history attached to it. It originally operated as a rooming house known as the Latona Hotel and was heavily used by local workers following the Denny Hill regrade project. The first floor of the Latona Hotel, again street level here where we are, was home to the Latona Beer Hall after Prohibition was repealed and operated as various taverns well into the 1990s.
I believe you mentioned the Latona in your.
Was the Latona included? Was that the infamous... I don't know if that was the same place or not. Was it the Latona? I think that was...
Your book.
I think that was a different hotel, Jeremy. I don't
That
think it was the
different
Latona.
hotel?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, probably more than one Latona.
You're talking about the famous Madame that was like in the 60s and 70s. Yeah, I think that was a different hotel. Now you have me curious. I might have to check my book to double check that. Now, as far as the new Cyclops goes, it still has a lot of funky art, still remains a hangout for neighborhood characters, and still carries that old Seattle spirit. A little weird, a little funky, and a whole lot of fun. So what do you guys think of that?
I can dig it.
Yeah.
God bless it.
So, Brad, you made it sound like you had been to the original Cyclops.
I have. Oh, definitely, yeah.
You saw the Jello molds with your own eyes?
I did. Yeah, absolutely.
Nope.
Not the original, no, and I have not been here for probably like 15 years. But my buddy Swan got married who happened to be a local resident masshole as well. And him and his buddy Joe got married here, and that was at our after party here. So we all got wasted here. But yeah, that was a long. And you know what? After parties, after like a wedding.
After party.
Yeah. So, anyways, it's a great bar, but yeah, I haven't been here for a while. I think we were sitting back in these very booths right here, probably getting our party on. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Like, okay, maybe it was a coffee shop or something, but there was all sorts of art and memorabilia and tchotchkes and knickknacks and stuff like that. It just had this really kind of cool, homey, like, like made out of super fun.
Yeah, it was fun. And there always were characters hanging out there. It was almost kind of like a living room type vibe, but people were just hanging out and working on art projects or whatever, and you know.
It was as if the original Bauhaus
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
So there's like exactly 0 people listening to this podcast who understand the reference at all.
Now, what about you two things? When was the last time you were here at this Cyclops, since you weren't at the original?
So, yeah, I mean, I did frequent this place, but it was more of like, I mean, I always thought of the Cyclops as like, it's almost like a greasy spoon diner because it's like the food is good here. And that's what, I mean, the drinks are stiff, the bartenders are great, everybody's nice, but like, you'd come like after a night of, drinking at the different places, and then, okay, let's go to the Cyclops and like get a burger in us, get something in us.
Get something in our stomachs and sober up a little bit. Yeah.
Did they keep the kitchen open late?
Yeah. I mean, I assume so. Like, the nights are blurry.
Nice.
And this was always regarded as kind of a late night spot. Yeah, as many places on Belltown.
I love it.
With Formica tables.
Oh my gosh, the metallic, flaky, vinyl, the Formica tables and everything. It's very, very kind of classic.
Retro.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
A perfect complement to the kind of the dive ethos that's like right across the other side of the wall there with the actual bar and all that.
Well, and it still embraces its artistic roots. You know, there's an entire wall of black velvet paintings. There's a lot of cool stuff, I guess.
An entire wall of
Panthers.
I was just looking at the.
we have to call
Those
them
are Panthers, aren't
Yeah.
they?
They are Panthers.
At the lights above here, you might, if you look at them just right, it may be constituted a red eye with an eye with a iris in the middle, a metal iris.
And somewhere supposedly is one of Jimi Hendrix's guitar picks. We'll have to find that. Yeah.
Nice.
But it always felt like Seattle's best diner with like some of Seattle's best bartenders just happened to be your server. Like, they really did have a great bar staff, which was nice.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's a great way to describe it too. It also reminds me of R.I.P. the Hurricane too.
So I have to keep saying, I'll probably do it again. I keep saying like, oh, I'm going to do, oh yeah, where are you guys meeting? I'm at the Hurricane. I'm like, no, it's the Cyclops. Well, they both have one eye, you know. But I really do keep thinking like the Hurricane, but Hurricane was its own. Which
that part of town is virtually unrecognizable now.
Oh yeah. Oh, that block especially. Yeah.
Changed a lot. Yeah.
My wife saw, we were talking about hurricane stories because I kept calling it the Hurricane. She's like, you're not going to the Hurricane. But anyways, she saw a fist fight that a guy picked up a butter knife and started threatening people with it. But a butter knife, like, just your diner butter knife. And I was like, that was pure Hurricane. Because that, like, used to be called the Dog Pound.
The dog
house.
Yeah. And that back bar kind of still was the dog house, like
in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Go there, your resident bookie in the back there.
Yes.
So you brought a butter knife to a gunfight, huh?
To like a fist fight. A butter.
Yeah. Well, speaking of drinking and drunken escapades, do we want to get into what you drinking?
It'll be a quick segment. We all got the same thing. Jeremy, tell us about it. We got a custom on tap tonight.
Not only that, but like we're almost down to round 2. You're right. We're all 3 of us got Boundary Bay IPA.
That you can only get here.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a custom that they made for him.
IPA, West Coast style, classic IPA, just for I think they've been doing that for many years.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We don't see that almost. We see a couple of like kind of unique beers specifically for a dive bar that we visit. Kind of cool to see. So.
Well, it's funny because this came up the last episode at the Marco Polo because they, for a limited time, they had a similar thing. They had they collaborated with Georgetown and had their own beer, but it was only for like a short period, right?
Yeah, it was for
like a limited release. It was for their anniversary. Yeah. They should bring that back, man.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Definitely dragged the poor bartender out. March your ass on over to Georgetown. They're literally across the street. Get him the booze. Goddamn.
Have your own exclusive beer. Why not? Yeah.
And then when we were at the Parkway, did they have an exclusive beer too, or they just had multiple? The Parkway Tavern.
Oh, their menu was like so huge. I
Yeah,
don't
they
even
just
remember.
had. I can't remember if they had something specially designed just for them. I thought they did, but maybe I was
They
wrong.
probably had a tap handle on the ceiling of it, at least.
Yeah, right.
in the industry. Word.
Well, do we want to... Oh, and Matt, you are drinking a Vitamin R.
Yeah, I live in Rhode Island, beautiful Rhode Island now, the land of Gansett. Special tall boy of Rainier. Oh, Gansett. I mean, like, there's these few still existing regional cheap domestic lagers that exist in this country. Gansett is the New England version of Rainier that's it's a little more on the tardier side. It's a beautiful beer. But when I come back here, I want this malty big red R in my face.
There you go.
I'm like drinking this all week, and I won't be told otherwise.
We are big fans of the Red R ourselves. Did you ever go to Rainier Day when you were here? Did you ever attend those in Georgetown?
I've done a few Rainier paintings in my career.
Nice.
And I did a Mr. T in Rainier, and it has Mr. T flexing and crushing a Rainier in front of all his gold belts, and he has a giant red R gold belt in the front.
That's fucking badass.
Yeah, it's a fun painting, but it got ripped off by the company of Rainier, who took the painting, edited out my watermark, and then posted on all their social media. I was very early in my career, and no. But they got called out by people who knew me and people who knew what I was doing. Yeah, and
Can you get my boy a couple of pallets of Rainier on the house? Let's go.
They sent me a swag box.
Yeah.
I got a Rainier hat that I
so
still
at least
wear.
there was-
They apologized. They edited my name back in there, and then they, made good, and I got to participate in an R Day before I wasn't here for it, but I got to send some stuff in that was part of R Day, which was cool.
All right.
Okay, very nice.
Good. I don't want that.
Well, at least they tried to make it right.
No, they 100% did.
Couldn't they have just said it's our logo. We can do what we want with it.
Yeah, but it's my painting, so
Yeah, but you use my painting.
Yeah.
I'm taking it back. So that's cool that they made it right.
Yeah. You got to respect that. All right, well, why don't we take a break and come back for round 2? What do you guys say?
Let's do it.
Hit
Two
us.
things. You going to get 2 Rainiers?
anytime.
All right.
All right, we're back for round 2, and we're going to talk to Matt Brennan more about his art. But first, let's go round table. Lou, we'll start out with you. What you drinking for round 2?
Well, tonight it's a Brad and Lou night. Me on the Jamie and you on the Henny.
Okay, all right. So you got Jamie on the rocks.
Yep.
Is it mixed with anything? It looks a little light there.
No, it's Jamie on the rocks. It's
Just ice is melted, maybe.
the ice is melted, but don't let that fool you because it's a stiff drink.
Okay, all right, I believe you.
Because a lot of ice is melted. It's been sitting here for a while.
Jeremy, what are you drinking there for round 2?
Well, the Boundary Bay IPA was delicious.
It was.
Tried to mix it up a little something different. They have a Boneyard IPA on tap.
Okay.
Great beer. You had that not too long ago. You had a Boneyard, I believe.
Boneyard is like one of those beers that we talked about on a couple different episodes. It was super popular for a while.
Maybe 10, 12 years ago, kind of had its reign.
Yeah, so in the dive bar scene we all know and love, beers kind of come and go in terms of fashion and so forth, and what's hot on tap and what's available everywhere.
Sure.
And I think Boneyard's one of those ones that, it's a delicious beer.
It's a great IPA.
Any place I
Yeah.
can find it, used to be much more widely available, especially with
It's kind of died out a little bit, though. You're right. You don't see it quite so often.
delicious IPA for anyone listening to that one, where you can find it.
All right, and 2 things. You are still on the vitamin R, I see.
Yep, I
Nothing
got
wrong with that, my friend.
got a
Nothing wrong
fresh
with that.
one. But I will say I'm a little jealous of this Jamie on the Rocks. I'm a Beam on the Rocks dive bar
Okay,
man. That's
okay.
my first drink, and I taper off with the tall boys. I go the
Nice.
opposite way, but
Boilermaker?
I do. I mean, I did. I was here in Seattle. I was in a cover band for a little bit. So they have a song called Boilermaker, and I had to do a lot of Boilermakers because of that.
By law.
So you've done your time. You've served your time.
I
as
did.
far as
Yeah. Cheapest beer, cheapest whiskey, but mix them together in your mouth.
Yeah.
Magic.
We
Magic
go to one of
happens.
those, snooty upscale bars and get your top shelf whiskey, top shelf craft beer.
Do you think that still's a Boilermaker? Seriously, does it still exist?
No.
Yeah, it's like whatever the ups. It's like what's that like the instead of a water heater where you have that the one that exists in your house that heats the water automatically.
Oh yeah.
Tankless,
Yeah.
Water heater. Yeah.
That's like a tankless water heater.
You've never.
not a bad analogy actually.
great name for a drink. That hasn't been coined already. Yes, this bartender, I'll take a tankless water heater. Bartender's like, what the fuck are you talking about? A top shelf whiskey followed by one of your best drafts.
You never had a Pappy Van Winkle smashed right in the middle of a barley wine, and then you slug that down.
Yeah, there you go.
That sounds like a hangover just
Mix them
waiting to
together.
happen.
Wait, what did you just do?
Death.
This is kind of an aside, but on the East Coast, there's a restaurant called Ruby Tuesdays that's like rip-off of TGI Fridays. It's awful. But, I was...
I've been to one before.
I was there. I was a wedding in the middle of nowhere. The only bar that was the Ruby Tuesdays bar in the middle of Pennsylvania, and they had something on maybe it's Tuesday nights. All liquors are name your price, whatever you want from the bar. So we're at this, and my friend orders a Long Island iced tea with all top shelf liquor, and it was like $9.
Wow.
He gets this thing, and he's drinking
What a bargain.
it, and I was like, all right, well, give me a taste of that. And I was like, this is delicious.
Was it?
It really was a lot better than a regular Long Island iced tea. It instead of that
Complete heresy for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Complete heresy.
No, Long Island iced teas are delicious. They're a
They
miracle
can
of
be.
weird science.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know how.
Keyword they can't
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
but you still do
You mix
taste it.
5 different hard liquors
Are Long
and
Island iced teas even still a thing
splash
anymore?
of Coke. You can order them anywhere. I'm sure.
I mean, I just don't hear about them anymore. That
I haven't ordered
It
one
was a
in
Long
30
Island
years.
iced tea. Then it was like an Adios, MF for a while, which is popular. And then a Black Opal.
Yep.
But I think the OG is the Long Island iced tea
Yeah.
for those kind of drinks.
Zombie
Yeah.
was another one. Yeah.
Irish Car Bomb. So our special guest tonight,
Yes.
Matt Brennan, otherwise known as 2 Things,
Hey now.
is his artist handle.
2 Thangs.
2 Thangs.
Gotta put
Gotta
that
put a little
stank on
sass
it.
into it. Gotcha. Okay. All right. You just had a new book come out, and like I mentioned before, I think most people would probably recognize your work by the Betty Page and Divine House. You were also showing us the picture of it's kind of like now iconic, the Jesus Garage in Green Lake.
Yes.
Why don't you tell listeners about that one a little bit?
Yeah, and both of these stories are in the book, but basically what I do is I make paintings for people where they give me 2 pieces of the outside world. And what that means is, very subjective, but
2 ideas. Can you mix?
But things that connect us to other people. So as long as it's not like my dog, my house, my grandson, things that are personal, but things that are bigger than us, and even whatever that is. I have done a painting of the Showbox Market, so that's local famous, but I'll do that.
I'm looking at the wall. I'm saying Stevie Wonder and a Beagle.
100%. I've done
could do that?
Tom and Jerry's and the Beatles painting before. I've done about 300 paintings for people over the last 9 years, and it's covered a lot of ground. But I did this book, which has been in the plans for a long time, and I traveled across the country, and I went to 42 of the paintings I've done, and I photographed the people that got the paintings, and then interviewed them about the stories of why they chose their 2 ideas. So it's them with
cool.
their paintings, and they talk about why they came up with Betty Page and Divine, or Jesus Looking for Parking, which is the Green Light mural I did.
Yeah.
There's 42 of those stories.
Give us a couple more.
Let's see. Peg Bundy and Elvira. What else is in there? Louis Armstrong and an octopus that was down in New Orleans. I'm trying to think of some of the best ones. I think you're
just going to have to get the book, Lou.
Yeah.
Elvis and a Native American. I'm looking at the paintings on the wall over here.
Yeah. Oh, I did a Lil Nas X and the QAnon shaman.
That's actually, I like that. That's a good juxtaposition.
Yeah, that person got a series of left-wing versus right-wing icons. And that was the centerpiece of it.
Interesting dichotomy, huh?
Yeah.
How would you describe your art style?
So I'm not photorealistic, but I am capturing likenesses. So in some ways, it kind of lends towards that. I don't want to get
maybe pop surrealism a little
pop
bit.
Pop surrealism is probably a good way to put it, or pop expressionism.
Okay.
I'm definitely in pop art. I'm pulling from real life. I'm pulling from the zeitgeist, and I'm trying to express it. But I'm also I use a lot of very vibrant, bright colors, and I put them against each other so that they're kind of vibrating with each other.
Yeah, and I think
high contact.
Yes.
It makes it pop for sure.
Yes.
And no disrespect to pop artists, but I think when I see your stuff, it might have pop icons, but I would see more art than pop art. It's very expressive of yours, although it might be using that as the base, but you definitely put your own twist on it 100%, so
I try. Thank you for that, and I do really try to be myself in what I paint, and I have kind of an innate weird style that
because that's Jesus there, but that's definitely that's 2 things is Jesus, you know what I mean?
And how did it start? Where was 2 Thangs born? When was he born, and how was he born?
Well, okay, so I was living in Seattle, and I had been making just my own paintings for a long time. I was down in Inscape. It's across the street from Wajimaya. It's that big old immigration center that's turned into art studios. I was the first artist in the building in there because my studio was right next door before that. And as soon as they opened up, I was like, let me in here.
Cool.
But, I was working as a paralegal in town, and hated it, but I was kind of born into that legal profession, and it was a good way to make money, and I've been doing that for a long time.
I think we need to expound upon that. Born into the legal profession.
Your dad was a lawyer, your mom was a lawyer?
With some stories.
My dad was a lawyer. My mom was actually a business professor or a dean of business schools eventually in her later career, but my dad's second wife was an attorney, and they started their own law firm, and then she had my sister 22 years after I was born, but she passed away when my sister was 6 months old, and I had to move in and take care of my sister, and I basically took over my stepmom's half of the law firm. Right after I got out of art school, I had to go down and do that.
And you were like, "Why do you want me here, Mom? I suck at this. I'm an artist."
Really pulled into the family business.
Yes.
Like, quite literally, yeah.
Like, well, this is happening.
100%. I it was a situation, but also it's kind of funny because it was a 3-4 year period of my life that before my dad had kind of rebuilt things, and he had a new lady in his life to kind of take over. But I also see how hard it is for people who get out of college and there's this year of like, now figure out what you want to do with your life.
Yeah.
I didn't have that because I was like, that was taken away. I just knew what I was doing. I was going down there and helping take care of my sister.
Helping family, yeah.
Yeah. So
your artist profession is all thanks to your stepmother.
I
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a path that came me down, but like, I moved out to Seattle, and like, I just came out here in my car with $1,000 maybe. I was, coming from Washington D.C. area, and I was like, I had no plan. I had nothing but the stuff in my Honda Civic. And within 2 days, I found a shitty little place in the U District right on Brooklyn Avenue that was a converted frat house that would rent me a room with a bathroom for like maybe $250 a month.
The good old days.
Yeah, and found my way getting paralegal jobs in town for the first,
I just love two things, the start of two things, artist, paralegal.
Yeah, quite literally two things. Yeah.
I mean, like, paralegal was... it was the stick. It was not the carrot.
Yeah. I can
Good way to put it.
Yeah. It was...
You said you had no plan, though. Then why Seattle?
So, I spent about a year and a half just traveling around the country with bands, and I would be selling their merch and selling books of my art, and so I got to see a lot of the country, and it was, I had a short list in my head, and I was like, well, these are cool places. This is a place that I really vibe with, and, it was probably like 5 cities or something like that at that time.
And then you visited Seattle in the summer. You're like, this is beautiful. I can't believe it looks like this all year round. I'm going to move here.
I am pretty sure it was winter Seattle.
Oh, okay. So you got to see it during the big dark.
Real Seattle.
I'd come through twice. One was a show at the old Rendezvous Jukebox Theater, and they played a show. They're like a really weird psych rock band, and they played a show with like, there was burlesque and wrestling and like all these
old
other
school Seattle,
things.
yeah.
It was all this weird shit. And then the second time I came through, they played at the old fun house by the McDonald's. And
McDonald's is gone too.
we played basketball.
Hell yeah.
We shot pool, and then these like great band from Spokane, a great band from Seattle, Madrasso, played, and like I was just like, this is a beautiful place. So it really made my top of my list, and I just kind of like, it's almost not quite a dart on a map, but like I was like, I feel this one. Let's do it. So I drove 3,000 miles in my car and came out here and found my way and worked as a paralegal because that's the kind of skill set I had. But in 2015, I had kind of built a little bit of a life and a little bit of stability. I had a wonderful partner who was like, stop being a paralegal, you fucking hate it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I have this opportunity. I have been making paintings in my studio and then trying to sell them to people. It's not working. I'm never going to earn a living doing that. And you have to sell your paintings for so much that you have to deal with rich people and what they want. And then you eventually, whatever you want, you're going to cater to those people by doing that. So I decided, okay, I'm going to come up with something. How do I bridge this gap? How do I get it so I'm selling paintings to regular people and I can still earn a living doing it because I've already faced a decade of working a job I don't want to do and feeling unfulfilled because I'm not making paintings. And what I decided on was, okay, this is kind of like a fun way to make people meet me in the middle. Like the idea of, if I just said I do custom paintings, then people are going to want one thing. But if I say 2 ideas, give me 2 ideas, and let's mix them together, that pushes people a little bit to be a little bit more fun, a little bit more weird, a little bit more kind of interesting to me. And it honestly worked. I mean, I came up with this initial idea, but the book is a lot about how far that idea has grown, which is a lot.
Two things.
Two things.
Two things.
Yeah.
Well, it's become very personal for some people, I'm sure, that have got your paintings. Like,
Yeah, because when you think about it,
subjects are very, very personal to their lives.
Yes.
Yeah.
and once you're asked to think, you're like, oh, now I have to really think about it. Like I could just say Elvis and Ship on the Sea, but if you're going to have a painting done, you want to think of two important things. It's like selecting a tattoo.
What would you pick, Lou? What would be your two things?
Stevie Wonder and a beagle, I think. First idea, best idea. That might be a great one.
Okay, all right.
It's one of the things I go over in the book because I have 42 of these stories of how people came up with it. A lot of people are very deliberate. It is kind of like a tattoo. There are people that are very much like, it's going to take me 3 years and I'm going to think of this, like, where does my personality lie? There's other people who really were just like
Biggie Smalls and Justin Bieber.
One of my favorite ones, it was a painting that hung in Dockside Cannabis up in Fremont for many years in the bathroom. But she had an uncle who very much, do you know the John C. Reilly character Steve Brule, Dr. Steve Brule?
Oh, yeah.
Sure, of course,
yes,
yeah.
Okay. So she had an uncle who had a speech pattern very much like Dr. Steve Brule, but he was having health problems at the time, and she was taking care of him. And he was always ranting about cottage cheese. And so
John Riley cottage cheese?
But he had that speech pattern of like Bringo, like that whole thing. And so and that was a thing at the that she was watching at the time. So she got this painting of John C. Reilly or Dr. Steve Brule and cottage cheese. And it was a whim, Sometimes it is. It's like a joke or a whim. Sometimes it's like, these are the center point, the touchstones of my entire life. Sometimes they're like, these are two things that remind me of a past loved one. There's a million different ways people come to ideas.
Yeah.
Do you have an example of work you've done where Two Thangs was
Okay. Well, one of the, there's probably a ton. Just what you say for fun, though, one of my more difficult Two Thangs was a guy who built bridges, and his two ideas were bridges and existentialism, and I had to work on a painting of thinking of how do you visually interpret existentialism in
Use a lot of black.
Well, how did you do it?
So I did the actually Spokane Street Bridge, that swinging bridge down there, and it was actually it was all the people living underneath of the bridge at that time.
Oh, wow.
Their tarps, their existence and looking across the water to the brand new condos across the water, and I did a little Kierkegaard as a guy who lives in this, looking across the water to it. But I do get very difficult ones of okay, how do I do? I mean, even to this day, I've been doing it 9 years. I've got about 300 paintings for people, and I still get ones that are okay, how do I wrap my head around this? How do I correctly do this? Yeah,
you got to kick the creative gears in order. And so when people hire you to do these paintings, is it a surprise then? They give the two ideas to you, and then you come back, I don't know, 2 months later or whatever, with the finished product, and they see it for the first time? Or do they want to know ahead of time what it's going to look like?
No.
Oh, that's a good question. Is it a blind bag?
I like to
They're not involved in the process?
Not at all. I like these to not just be what you chose, but why you chose it. And so I like these to be almost a description of the person conceptually. So you get 2 to 3 sketches on different ways to combine the idea. Even people that are very specific in their idea, I say okay, but here's 3, and you can pick this one that's very much in the direction I think you were heading.
Yeah.
But I try to give people 2 to 3 sketches, and even there, sometimes people are well, I like part of this one, I like part of that one, or they're I don't like any of these 3, and I'll do another sketch. But they're involved there, and then once it's about 90% done, I give them another chance to check in and say okay, is this feeling like what you want? And almost 100% of the time they do. They might have the best part is that they're the ones that love these things, So they check in at the end and then say like, oh, actually, Mulder has like a mole on his cheek, or like part of the X-Files is like the smoking man. Could you put a little cigarette down here or something?
He turns to them and say, no.
Almost like, I would say like 90% of the time, it's like, this is a fantastic idea. Let's add this in there. Cool. There's just like a few like visual things. Like pretty much the only thing I don't visually like is people when they just want words written on the painting. And that's the only thing I pretty much push back on. They're like, could you just write, like a quote from the movie?
Word existential or whatever.
Yeah, it's just like, I'd rather try to get that idea across visually than just write like, I'm sad over someone's head or something.
That's a great question.
Can you write I'm sad above the head? No.
And even...
Have you turned down the commission?
No, not yet. I mean, I have thought about it, like what would be my line, and there is a line I think I would have, but nobody's crossed it yet. It turns out like people with, those people I would turn it down from don't actually appreciate original art and would never pay for a painting.
And what are your thoughts as an artist on AI?
Talk about two things. AI, create me a picture of Elvis and James Brown. Beep.
100%. I mean, honestly, the only business that's taking away from me are people that were never going to buy a painting in the first place.
So,
like, it's people that are just like, here's a funny idea, but I have no appreciation for, like, because AI is fine, but
it doesn't have the human element.
No, it doesn't.
If you take an AI image and paint it across your house or garage or something, that's pretty douchebag.
Yeah.
Pretty douchebag.
And it's taking artists and without their consent and putting them into algorithm and combining a 1,000 pictures to create your one thing, but it's taking specific ones. It's a visual style that I already did not like before AI existed, and like I think people that came to me were looking for what I do, and so far, knock on wood, AI, you can't type in give me a Two Thangs painting like this. AI is not smart enough to I'm lower level enough that they can't do that.
Just wait.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, but that's because it comes out of your brain and everything that's happened to you in your life.
Yeah.
And that is how your creation. So you can't really replicate that. It's irreplicatable.
You can.
It's easier every moment.
Yes.
Just right.
It's true, but I do spend a lot of time thinking about connective tissue. Like in these 3 sketches, I think very hard about like what these 2 random things that I get. What is the thing that's like between them that like makes them into one thing? And I don't think AI spends any time thinking about that. They're just like, oh, well, here's the painting that already exists of Hulk Hogan, and here's a painting that already exists of Mahatma Gandhi, and like like let's just post his face on there and post his face on there.
Information.
Yeah.
Now, the house, I think, let's talk about the house, because the Betty Page Divine House, because I think a lot of people, that's your work that people probably best recognize.
Which you have blessed all of Seattle with, so thank you. Almost everyone in Seattle
everyone knows
that.
Everyone has seen the house. I'm sure everyone listening to this, you've seen the house. So the story is kind of interesting. I was doing a little research into this, so it sounded like it started out with a separate artist painting Betty Page, like sometime in the 90s, I want to say.
Yes, I think it may be late 90s or early 1000s.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was a female homeowner. I think she still owns the house. And she was really into Betty Page, so she had that painted on the side of the house. It got defaced. Someone came and like vandalized it, and she wanted it restored instead. Like I think some homeowners at that point would have been like, "Oh, this is just going to be problematic." She dug in her heels. She's like, "Nope, we're going to keep it," and she
Strong.
did.
I'd have been the first person out.
And that's when you came into the picture because she wanted to add Divine. Is that correct? Is that how it went?
Close. So Chris Brugos owned the house initially, and he got the Betty Page painted on the side of it.
Oh, okay, it was a guy.
And it was before
Okay.
he married Jessica. But when Baxter, who came in and like was very enthusiastic about the Betty Page.
Okay.
But he had done that before they were married, and she came into the house and was like, "This is fantastic." Now,
And that could have gone one of two ways. She could have been like, "Oh hell no, we
Yeah.
need to cover that up," or she could have embraced it. Luckily, she embraced it.
I mean, and also Betty Page was like, she was a burlesque dancer, so she used her sex, but she made her own costumes.
Yeah,
Like, this is
yeah.
the very much like, when they defaced it, they just threw gray paint all over it. They had written, "Stop exploiting women's bodies."
Right.
And Jessica wrote underneath that, she's a very brilliant lady.
She presented a retort.
Yes,
to that.
it was like, female expression is not exploitation, or, women own their bodies. You can't tell them how to use it.
Betty Page certainly
that's
owned
oppression.
hers, yeah.
She's an OG.
And I'd like to shout out, she does have a great Seattle podcast called it's a Twin Peaks podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Very Weird Things. And then she also does a feminist movie podcast that I'm blanking on the spot right now, but hopefully I'll remember in a minute.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
But you came in soon after it was defaced, right?
Yes. So I had done a painting for them of David Lynch and the Matterhorn at Disneyland. So David Lynch in Disneyland, and they already knew my
Was he
work.
like, wee, coming down the Matterhorn?
He's eating a churro in front of the teacups with like a couple of people from Mulholland Drive in the teacups, like going around, and Lost Highway, Step from Lost Highway with the video camera.
Love it.
But it was a fun painting, but it got defaced, and they went back to the person who had helped them create the original one, and he was like, "I'm not really doing art anymore." And they went to painting companies to try and repair it, and painting companies were like, "We're not going to touch
This isn't our
custom
thing,
art."
yeah.
So then they were like, "Well, what about making this the biggest Two Thangs of all time?" And I was like, "Oh, hell yeah." And we talked about some ideas about like what they wanted, and
One was Betty Page.
One is Betty Page, and I was I'm a huge John Waters fan, so when they came across Divine, I was just, yes, let's really do this. And I thought it was a fun way to say, like, it's Betty Page. She is, it's cheeky with the awning covering up the boobs, like it's a funny painting like that, but also like it's not about a naked lady, it's a...
Well, and it brought a certain campy, like, fun quality to the wholeness of it.
Yeah, and if you do want to sexualize it, well, okay, sexualize Divine, like, she's in your face.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you really use their own weapon against them.
It's like...
You can't deface it now. That'll make you homophobic, transphobic. I thought...
You got a thing for Divine?
Mentioning that, Lou, it also, then it took a turn after you painted Divine on it.
Yeah. Then it was defaced a second time, and Divine's more aggressive with her sexuality, just clawing at you. And I think it was funny. We don't know who actually did it any of the times. Nobody's ever been caught. The police actually don't really care to ever catch anybody.
But if you start thinking about who would be opposed to a transsexual icon, and red paint was used, you can maybe arrive at your own conclusion.
Yeah.
I very much I made the mistake at the beginning when I got this, and this is my first bit of press with Two Thangs of reading the comments. I never read a lot of comments, because we had a Seattle Times article and The Stranger, all this sort of stuff, and you start diving when there's 400 comments and looking in there, and the people that are upset are, it's such a weird amalgamation. So you have the first people that you assume are maybe misguided younger feminists who don't actually know who Betty Page is and just see nudity and think you're exploiting women's bodies.
Exploited, yeah.
But then the comments turn to there's very right-wing, transphobic, fatphobic, but also this weird repressed Christian crowd that's just I don't want to see pornography every time I turn down the exit. There's and you're so you guys are on the same side, and it just keeps, so it's pretty clear.
Everybody.
And just to be clear for anyone who has not seen this painting, there actually is nothing pornographic about it, but
Not at all.
they're still putting that out there.
Are there
Yeah.
are there bare boobies under the awning that you can see if you're walking?
No.
Okay.
You know,
the awning and look at the right angle. Can I see?
Who's about to write the
Asking
address
for
down?
a friend.
no, it's we try to respond every time, but through visual art. So like the first time we just repainted, and then we did a separate mural of Britney Spears and Twin Peaks, which was kind of like that was the exact time where Britney Spears had her controlling father controlling her assets, and so kind of a female
Yellow sweater.
entitlement. Laura Palmer was killed by her dad, who was a controlling guy.
Okay.
So in
He
Twin
was
Peaks.
possessed.
Yeah, and then
We have to be careful though, because the typical audience of this podcast is very not.
that's a good point.
That's right. We'll have a crawl if you're watching it on YouTube. You'll see the things. You can look them up on TikTok.
But yeah, like then the second time that mural was destroyed by the people, and so we did a painting of Marsha P. Johnson, who is one of the first transgender or drag queen. Was 70s. Is one of the people who, rumor is through the shot glass through the window at Stonewall, like set it off, or through the brick through the window. So like a big queer icon as the Statue of Liberty. And we,
Well, that's a good jab at both sides. You can't destroy Lady Liberty. It's America. I'm going to salute that flag.
Well, and all three images are still there, correct?
No, Britney Spears, Laura Palmer's gone. It was destroyed. Like, there was no way of staving it, and we kind of wanted to, like, push it forward.
No, I mean the famous Stonewall pioneer.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
she's still there, right?
Yes,
And
she's
I'm
still
sorry,
there.
what was her name again?
Marsha P. Johnson.
Marsha P. Johnson.
Yeah.
So right now, the house, if you were to look at it, it would have Betty Page, Divine, and Marsha P.
Yeah. If you can't really see it from the highway.
Wait. That's three things.
Well,
They're two separate murals, though. So it would be four things, actually.
Four things.
Yeah.
All right.
easy, Lou,
I'm going to have
take
to
it
open up a
easy.
calculator here.
Put down that Texas
We're
instrument.
talking.
But yeah, they're separate murals, but you can see them all at once, or if you're actually in the space, you see the Marsha P. Johnson one, which they're happy to show off. So if you drive up the driveway, which also goes to the Mormon church, you can see that.
Awesome.
Members of the Mormon church were very kind of like, I'm so sorry this happened, but the actual Mormon church was not very helpful or responsive to like trying to find, because the people who did it the last time there's lots of cameras around there, and they came from their parking lot. I'm not trying to throw anybody but
Angel of Moroni, Easter Bunny. Two things.
I'm ready to do your bidding.
That's a good one.
You don't get that LDS reference? Well, that's the Angel of Moroni. That's who's blowing the horn on top of all of the Mormon churches. Anyways.
All right, so for anyone who's hearing this and being like, that's an insanely great idea, I want to get a painting done for me, how would they contact you to commission you to make a painting for them?
I'm on every single form of social media except for whatever Twitter's called these days. And, I have my own website, twothangs.com.
Okay.
I'm open to any form of message I get. I try to work with people I try to work fast. So I try to keep busy and keep things moving and make as many paintings as I can. Yeah.
Oh, and I know.
So we won't have to wait 2 or 3 years if we...
No.
You don't have to wait 2 days, because on Saturday, what's going on?
Saturday, I'm having my book release party at Screwdriver Bar and Belltown Yacht Club. It's going to be a big old bash at Rock and Roll Bar, one of the best, best bar in Seattle going right now.
Right across the street, huh?
Right across the street.
I've never even noticed it.
Well, you got to go down the stairs beneath, like...
It's relatively new, Lou Dog.
Yeah. It's like 6-7 years old now, but yeah.
It's rad. There's going to be bands there.
Yes.
all around.
And I want to give a lot of credit to Screwdriver Bar for really came in and staked their claim, and I think they are part of that pushback against
100%.
Just letting Belltown go. In 2012, this was just Cyclops was here, Shorty's was on the ropes, Mama's was dying, but Club Venom was going strong. A whole bunch of clubs that.
Those were pop-up clubs, here today, gone today, always in that same spot.
At the height of the tech pro era,
Yes.
there was a lot of the clubs catering to that kind of demographic.
Well, on that in that aspect, Club Amber is now going to resurface here, and I will add that it has a gigantic television in there that puts some of Vegas's rivals some of Vegas's televisions. It's set to reopen here.
Oh.
Just saying. Yeah, that's the only thing they got going for them. But I don't know. I'm not much of a clubber myself, but TV.
But I am happy to talk Two Thangs all day. But I came on this podcast to talk dive bars, and I have hot takes on fucking dive bars.
Let's hear 'em, man.
And I would like to talk to you guys. I want to ask you a question. So
Yes.
I'm a lover, and I feel like if you actually did a Seattle dive bar only podcast, there'd be 3 episodes at this point. But I do feel like there's a big difference between the dive bar, all the adjacent dive bar things, a neighborhood bar, like a shitty sports bar, a diner with great bartenders, things like that. So I'd like to know your guys' thoughts, because I think a dive bar is a very specific, only American institution, but there's always, in a real dive bar, there has to be a hint of, not just cheap drinks, but a hint of danger. An adventure.
Yes, you're talking about. In fact, we just did an episode at the Marco Polo,
Yes.
and there was a woman there who was playing pool who owns the strip club, or she manages a strip club down the street, and she was in there at Marco. And what are you guys doing? Why are you on the mics? And she was like, "Oh, you guys think this is a dive bar? Where I come from, a dive bar is people doing coke in the bathroom, people getting hammered.
Half the TVs don't work.
Half the TVs
These
don't
are
work."
great signs for that.
She's like, "Yeah."
Well, it's
And
funny.
what we are doing is they're more historical bars.
Yeah, it's funny you bring the subject up too, because Jeremy and Lou here just appeared in the current issue of Seattle Met magazine, talking about this very subject, about what is a dive bar. And we've been discussing this subject for all 4 seasons. I don't think we've come to a full consensus yet. For me, it's kind of like the Supreme Court, that famous quote about pornography. I know it when I see it. It's almost come to that. But there's certain criteria, I would say, that we look for in a dive bar. It has to have some grit under its nails. It has
That's
to be
number
of a
1.
certain age. Has to have some cool story behind it. The grime and stuff on the walls, it needs to be hard earned. You know what I mean? It has to be earned through years of being in use, not just because they want it to look that way and they put a special paint on to replicate it. So what would you guys say? What would you guys add to that?
Well, it's not a requirement, but if you have pull tabs, bang, you're on the list
Pull tabs
automatically.
Great, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have ice in the urinal, you're on the list.
Good
That's
sign.
a big one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna add to this, those are 2 fantastic requirements, but I'm gonna add real jukebox, not iTunes jukebox.
Those are hard to come by, though.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but those are becoming as rare as a hen's teeth.
But when
They
you
all
find
have
one-
the electronic jukeboxes that you can use from your phone. Yeah,
But
unfortunately.
when you find those old real
Yes.
jukeboxes,
Yes.
sorry, I didn't.
No, keep going.
Well, no, I feel like that is those 2, ice and the, you got to have a salty fucking bartender. You got to have someone giving you the
That's
business.
a good one.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like a dive bar is a community center, so it's almost about the people that hang out there.
100%.
You can have all the things, but that's the difference between a shitty sports bar and a dive bar.
Right.
Is you got to have a mix.
Well, it's a cheers bar. Everybody knows everybody.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was at Marv's Broiler around bar close one time.
Oh, now let me ask these gentlemen, does anyone knows where Marv's Broiler, which is no longer here, but where it used to be?
No, I don't remember that.
Paradise?
Oh, R.I.P. Terra.
Are these all downtown bars?
No, these are White Center bars.
Okay,
Marv's Broiler used to be a funky that was a real, you might get your ass kicked in
well,
that
White
bar.
Center, that was back when White Center truly was kind of a dangerous
so white,
place.
not so
Not
center.
so much anymore.
It still is, though, a little bit. Yeah.
It's
Not like it
more
was.
in a lot of neighborhoods, but
Yeah.
like it's not. But we were at this place. I mean, they had like
call, Two Thangs.
literal tabs like, I'll pay you next week. I saw a guy come in and say like, yeah, I want a beer, and they're like, your tab's like 50. You can't get another beer on it. Like,
I remember one of my buddies was having a beer there when the place got raided by the feds when a guy got taken out.
Oh.
There was a raid. Like, this is the type of characters
Now
that
that's a
hang out
dive
there.
bar. When
Yes.
the feds raid it, you know you are in a dive
Yeah.
bar. Yeah.
when I was there late, and there's like 3 Samoan guys playing pool, and the ball got stuck at some point, so they picked up the entire pool table and slammed it on the ground, and the bartender ran out and says like, I've told you so many times to stop doing that. Like, it shook the entire restaurant.
Sorry, my bad.
But yeah, this is dive bar, you know, like, you know, so yeah, I just like.
What about the locker room right across the street? Did you ever hang out there? R.I.P.
Yes, locker room, another one, burned down 2 times.
Yeah.
But I remember hanging out there.
We should do the locker room.
We can't.
It burned down 2 times.
Can't make it a dive bar required, but it's pretty good. It's kind of like ice in the urinal there. Like if you burn down more than once, like yeah, you kind of.
You're in.
Actually, the most disgusting dive bar thing I ever did was have a pudding shot at the locker room. And this is like the first time I did it, they hadn't figured out pudding shots, you should freeze them, so they're kind of like ice cream shots. So this was like literal pudding that stuck to the roof of your mouth and tasted like cheap
Well, that's kind
vodka.
of how we had it, right?
We
Was
had
that
a pudding shot.
frozen, or
Shout out to Al's.
At Lenny's.
More room temperature, right?
Yeah, Lenny's. Lenny's
Lenny's is great.
Yeah.
Lenny's in Tangletown has pudding shots.
You know, I'm glad I tried it just out of curiosity's sake, but I'm not necessarily like running trying to find another pudding shot
I
somewhere.
believe the shots we did
Yeah.
were room temperature
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's when it gets gross.
yeah.
or delicious.
If you're hardcore.
So, when you were in Seattle, what would you say were some of your favorite dives that you enjoyed going to?
So like the Lobo that turned into the Victory Lounge, and I was so upset when it turned into the Victory Lounge, but the Victory Lounge was this.
The Lobo's on Eastlake, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
right on your way to Mars Bar at that time.
Just the big square bar
Mars
in the
Bar.
middle.
yes, and like.
Yeah, that place is rad.
Victory, I was so upset because Lobo was a true dive, and the
Jukebox.
Victory came out and it was like. They cleaned it up. It was the same owners. It was
We've
the same.
seen that before, yeah.
Yeah, same people that were part owners of the Funhouse, but they were so smart because that neighborhood. That was right when that neighborhood, like you remember, South Lake Union was just empty warehouses,
Yeah, right.
Nothing.
and then
Dark Center.
people squatting, and then all of a sudden in 3 years, it's every
Right.
bougie gastro pub in the world over there.
Thanks, Amazon.
Yeah,
Probably
it
what, like
was.
3 Tom Douglas restaurants there? Yeah.
The worst. But the Victory had this smart business plan where it would be this after. It was just clean enough. The Amazon employees would come in there after work. They'd leave at 7, and then it was all the old punk rockers would come in there and play shows at night, and it was kind of a beautiful thing. So I was always at the Victory, loved the Victory. The Nightlight was like my first beautiful love of Seattle that taught me of what a great dive bar
That's
could
on
be.
my. That's got to be my top 3.
Oh,
And talk
such
about
a
a
beautiful
stiff
bar.
drink. It's like glug 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 glug
bartender?
glug glug.
Marsha. Yeah,
the
Marsha.
classic.
She
Oh
was,
my God.
you could come in there twice. She'd remember your drink,
100%, yes.
Such a beautiful place. I was there for the heyday of the 9-pound hammer, where it would just be
another good
all people that were making crazy art and crazy things, and it's such a sad, shelved place these days. But at one point that was a beautiful bar filled with like some of the most creative people in Seattle. It was such a fun hub of community.
What about the Shorties when it was all the bike messengers out front? That was the days.
It really was like the pinball kept it going, and that's where it exists today. But like it really was a fun place, and I had too many nights where I showed up to Shorties late and started drinking red drinks and just regretted it the next day.
Yeah.
So that being said, one time we're at Shorty's hanging out, we're kind of drunk at a table that has yet to be bussed, and I kind of look over and I'm like, oh fuck, score! Somebody left the whole fucking drink. I'm about to fuck. And he's like, look at that.
You had a secondhand drink?
No, someone had a red drink, had too much, didn't work out with them, and they vomited everything back up into the cup, and there was a cup of vomit. So luckily I did not drink it, but I was staring at a cup of regurgitated red drink.
But you had a split second of considering it.
I was drunk enough to like, oh, free drink, I'm gonna drink. Oh no, shit, I almost.
Just a baby bird.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, man, that Shorty was great, man. Yeah.
Still is great. Ava moved it a block up the road.
Monday night Raw on Monday nights. They used to have Raw after wrestling.
Yeah, that was super fun.
You mentioned like all the bike rankings.
Yeah, that was during the heyday.
I still think that it's conspiracy theory that that was the impetus for the TV show, Bike Messengers in Seattle.
What is the TV
I didn't even know
show?
there was a TV
don't
show.
know what you're
I'm not
talking
hip to that.
There's a TV show about bike messengers in Seattle.
I mean, I'll watch that. Yeah. What is it?
What was the name of it? You're making it up. There's no TV show about bike messengers.
You're pulling our legs.
I think there was one episode of Grey's Anatomy about the bike messengers.
Sci-fi shit like special powers.
Sci-fi.
Oh, I'm watching this show.
Wow, you're selling us, buddy.
Bike messengers, sci-fi, supernatural powers. You are definitely making that up.
Google that shit. I don't remember the name of it, but it existed.
AI will
Hey,
make your pain.
you pick a couple of those can be your two things.
Exactly. Bike messengers and
Sci-fi.
This is something you dreamed up on a mushroom trip. I'm pretty convinced. You're like, yeah, we got a bike messengers, supernatural.
It's possible, but I really do think the show exists. And I'm hoping that my, our one or two listeners will find me and be like, oh yeah, I remember the show. It was awesome.
It's not a regressed past life, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Maybe it was also a TV show.
I do want to say, like, there's one that still exists, because I just named a whole bunch of bars that don't exist anymore, but Joe's Grill, which is the bar across the street from the train station in the International District.
Okay.
It's an amazing bar. You will meet a cast of characters
We
hanging
were
out
just
there
talking
for
about that
like-
bar.
Is that
It's funny you
Pioneer
mention it.
Square?
No, that's
Yes.
the
No.
it's International District.
It's ID. It's on the other side.
It's right next to the gate that goes into the ID. Yeah.
And that bar has a lot of things, two things, but wouldn't you say
I know exactly what you're talking about. I just walked
it
by
has grit and spades over there?
Oh, yeah. And a real jukebox. Does not have ice in the urinal. It has pull tabs. Does not have ice in the urinals. But one time I saw written in pencil above the urinal, it said, "I will kill again."
Well, that's funny you
terrifying.
mention it because I think its nickname is Stabby Joe's because there have been a few stabbings there over the years, unsurprisingly. And Jeremy and I were just like, we got to definitely make that one of our stops for next season.
Kill us and I'm killing it.
Yes.
Right?
Like killing the game, yes.
And just for the record, while y'all were blathering around, I Googled Dark Angel.
I've never heard of that show.
That's the show? Dark
Wow.
Angel, and it was set in Seattle about supernatural bike messengers. I still think you're making it up. But I
Check it out on Hulu.
Vampire Bike Messengers. Two Thangs. That's it.
I mean, I'm going to watch this show.
I don't even know what to say about that. Okay.
All right. You about ready to land this plane, Brad?
I'm about ready to land the plane. Before we close out, is there anything you want to mention about your art or anything upcoming that you want to let our listeners know about?
Buy the book. I got a lot of books to sell, and I think it's a really wonderful thing. So if you're interested in it, it's for sale on my website, or actually it will be carried in Seattle at Fantagraphics and Elliott Bay Book
Awesome.
Company.
Georgetown.
So, yeah.
Fantastic. And again, your website, it's twothangs.com.
twothangs.com or
Easy.
With some stank on
two-thangs.com.
it.
Either one works.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, check it out. So, twothangs.com. Buy his book. His art is awesome. I can attest to it.
Yeah, thank
And
you,
with
Two
that,
Thangs.
Well,
yeah,
thank
thank
you
you
guys.
for joining us.
I am so excited
This
to be
was a
on
blast.
This
So
one.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a good episode.
I love your guys' podcast. It's so much fun. You're doing great work documenting all these fantastic places. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, with that, we're out until the next episode. And our next episode will be the series finale for season 4.
We're going to do Stabby Joe's?
We're debating it right now.
All right.
Yet to be determined.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
But
Well,
anyway,
cheers, boys.
So until next time, cheers. We're out.
Like, subscribe, and buy the book.